Let's play a little writing game called the Stochastic Fiction Game. At least that's the name I give it. We play the game by creating the stochastic fiction outline. We do that by executing the script. It's going to generate a random set of story elements, and I am going to write to those story elements for the next 2 hours. Read the story at the end and rate it, see if it's actually a story and it fits the parameters as defined. Let's go ahead and see what our stochastic fiction game for today is. This is the outline that was just created with the script. It's got a timestamp into it as well. We're going to open this up. Once it's open, we'll have our story to create. For today, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to be able to create a stochastic fiction game story based upon these randomly generated story elements. Story elements for today are setting, time past, setting, main location, jungle, conflict, person versus self, quantity of primary characters 2, point of view first, tense, past tense, genre, tall tale, format, flash fiction. Well, I do see the stream time is going up there, and I got another, an hour and 59 minutes to create a story based upon these story elements. Tall tale. Well, I've done this one before, and I'm always complaining about it. It is a very interesting sort of writing style or genre, if you wanted to call it a genre. You could classify it as something else, but a tall tale is very popular in the good old United States of America, and I'm sure other places as well. It's under a different name. Tall tale. What does it mean by a tall tale? Well, I'm going to go ahead and read this aloud just so I can get it in my mind. It's not as if something that I create every single day of my life. I've done this before, but my mind is fragile and forgets, and I just want to remind myself where we're at. A tall tale is a story with unbelievable elements related to as if it were true and factual. Some tall tales are exaggeration of actual events. For example, fish stories. That fish was so big. Why did I tell you? It nearly sank the boat. Other tall tales are completely fictional tales set up in a familiar setting, such as European countryside, the American frontier, Canadian Northwest, the Australian outback, or the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. All right, so unbelievable elements related as if they were factual or true. This takes place in a jungle. Okay, well, I haven't really been to. I've been to sort of things that would be considered a jungle, but not familiar with them enough to just dive into some random fiction story based upon a location that's in a jungle and feel comfortable with it. But maybe that's why I should do it. It doesn't have to be like some, fishing maybe? If it's first person, hey, that sucks. I guess it could be like the person telling the story, right? And I can get into their voice. That's kind of fun, actually. Now that I think about it, it doesn't suck. Doesn't suck that bad. Jungle. Okay. What kind of tall tale? Jungle. I think the last time I went with jungle, I was in Florida. As far as creating a story. The tropics. um, I mean, do I have to name it? I mean, I guess that's sort of. I'm just doing a search and return on other jungles, and it always just throws up Florida. And why not? Florida is always probably good for a tall tale. So let's see if we can get a tall tale. This has got to be a first person narrative, so I'm going to try to find this Floridian's voice. And it's the Florida jungle. Whatever that means. I don't know. I'm looking at Florida, like they got rainforests, the Florida jungles you can unlock and explore. At least the advertisers of Florida want to give me the impression that jungles exist. Let's see. The tropical rainforests are found in Central and South America, Western Central Africa, Western India, Southeast Asia, and the islands of Guinea. I can't even say that word right now. New Guinea in Australia. I'm gonna just go with Florida. South Florida jungles, yo. Jungle Island. Animal interactions and exhibits. Oh man, I could have this at a theme park. A zoological park. They have tropical and subtropical forests found in the southern part of the Floridian coastal plain and the Florida Keys. I'm going to just go Florida. That's where their jungle's going to be at. Welcome to the jungle in Florida. Just make it easier. I'm not going to be able to write a story very well in a Central or South American jungle. Not going to happen. I guess Florida could, it's not technically Central America as most people reference it, but it falls below that line maybe of the northern part, even though it's technically not. Okay, so this is going to be in Florida. Already popping into my mind. I just got to go with moonshine. Something that I can at least have in a jungle and a tall tale about. And maybe it's like this ultimate moonshiners. I don't know why moonshine. It's just popped into my head. I know, why did it pop into my mind? Reality television is the primary reason why it popped into my mind. And I feel as if, I was just thinking shows, especially reality shows. I don't know how just because they'll give you some glimpse of quote unquote reality. And that reality was that a lot of these moonshiners go into these sort of forested, swampy areas. Maybe they're tropical forests. They will be in this story. And I don't know. They could be in Georgia or Florida. They're in the South, according to the show. And I've only seen three episodes at most. And they made an impression, but not deep enough to remember every detail. And even if they made a strong impression, I wouldn't remember every detail. What I remember is the swamp, the tropical forest type stuff. I'm going to put this in Florida. We'll make it about the the biggest moonshine. We'll make it like a fish story. The biggest moonshine in operation there is. Usually tall tales depict about an event, and that'd be the moonshiners, the Floridian moonshiners. Yeah, that's where the tale's gonna be at. It's gonna be in Florida. Welcome to Florida. Let's make some moonshine. What is excuse me. What does that mean? Moonshine in Florida jungle. In Tall Tell. I made so much moonshine that I started my own liquor business. What do you exaggerate? What's the plateaus of success for moonshining? Vague memories of I don't know moonshiners. I mean, I've known distributors of illegal narcotics, and moonshine's illegal, so I can at least use that experience of what it's like to not only evade the law but be undercover of it and have to distribute it below the table. And it's got to be a flash fiction story. Jesus. Like, well, I'm thinking of like Babe the Blue Ox and Paul Bunyan. How the Great Lakes were made. How moonshine became moonshine. I know the whole idea behind moonshine is that you make it at night so you don't get caught, if I remember right, and you run it at night and use the moon's light. At least that's the one I was told. Maybe there's a different story. Maybe someone on the moon first made it. No, that's not true. So moonshine. But I could use that as something. Moonshine. Like, man, I'd love to have been there for the genesis of that sling. All right, so this is going to be a large moonshine operation. What fantastic, exaggerated feat are these moonshiners going to be doing? Like, what is impressive? Maybe they're so good they did create moonshine everywhere, including the jungle in Florida, the jungle island. Maybe that's, yeah, I mean, that way it'd be like, we're the ultimate moonshiners. We're using a tourist attraction to create moonshine. That's not very telltale. I'm chuggling a little bit. Not terrible. My stream manager says I'm 13 minutes into this, and if I give myself 2 hours, I've got time. But I hate talking too much because it's not writing. Editing it may help smell like perfume. I don't know if I'll get to that today. I'll rate it. I don't know if I'll get to that good of a rating. Let's just get that out of my mind. And let's just think a story. A story about moonshine in Florida. First person. Hold on, let's see. First person. 2 people. It'd be you, the person, and the person talking. Person versus self. Damn it. I should have read that. Like, person versus society would have been a better moonshining. I mean, really would. It'd make it worth something. Story elements: setting, time, past, setting, main location, jungle, conflict, person versus self, quantity of primary characters 2. Okay, so person, let's versus self. I don't know. Person versus self. Let's go moonshine or tall tell. Like, how boring is that? I tell you a tall tale about someone loving themselves. Maybe that is a tall tale, especially in this day and age. Um, the people that should love themselves typically don't, and the people who do love themselves are the only ones. Probably love them. If I did moonshine, man, this would be tough. It's in a jungle though, like person versus self in a jungle. I mean, that's right there is you're trying to survive. You're not trying to make moonshine. No, that'd be person versus nature. Person versus self would be a self-inflicted thing, like something you've done. Alcoholism, moonshine. Whoa, this is gonna get dark. Um, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe this is about a tall tale about alcoholism. Um, boy, person versus self though. Maybe the person is making moonshine drink so much they think they fought themselves and they lose, and that's why they quit moonshine and drinking, because they fought themselves. And then we'll just throw in like, fish story type stuff like I had the biggest moonshine operation in the world. And that would be the two people, the sober self and the drunk self, person versus self. That's I'll go with that. Okay, so this person was a moonshiner, so it's not like they could get away from it. they were around it all day. That's how they made the money. Pa made Ma. We'll start with Ma. And it got to be something. We'll go Ma's. That's like with Mom's recipe. I'll go Mom. We'll have this moonshiner just be like, can completely say Mom. Ma's. That's just like a. I honestly don't know. I mean, I may have heard someone say Ma before that wasn't on television and trying to fit some stereotype. With Mom's moonshine recipe. And what is it? A still? Like alcohol still. STILL stills. Okay. Moonshine still. So it's just STILL. Cooked up and it's first person. Yeah, I think this is it. Paragraph about telling how awesome they are. Like, how they got to where they're at. I got to set up this duel, this fight, this thing. And with Mom's moonshine recipe and still, I cooked up. What's the name of this moonshine? Like orange. I mean, you just need fruit, right? I've never made moonshine before. And if I had, would I say I did right now? I would. That wouldn't be something I would be ashamed of, or I'd be willing to have this as evidence of me having created moonshine if I had and sold it illegally. I think you can create it for yourself. I think it's once you start distributing it that where you start to have your legal issues. Distribution, not cooked up. Enough swill. I know swill's a certain type of alcohol. Alcohol swill. What the hell is swill? I don't want to like start throwing out stuff. Swill down. They're saying it like drinking is swill. Wow. Yeah. I don't want to make it swill. Swill is drinking or something that's bad. So swill is to cause a liquid to flow around or over something. To drink. And then for a drink, if you call it a swill, that's an insult. And SIWIL with one, man, there's just some depths to the word swill. They're not going to make up swill. No. Cooked up enough. We got to give a name to this. Like, they're going to use the fruit of an orange. It's Florida after all. I've heard they have those things there. Commercials say they do, and you know, if they're trying to lie to me in those commercials, which they are, you know, they pick their lies. They're not going to lie about something that you could research some other place, find through their lie, then you wouldn't believe in the product. You lie about the things they don't know about. So I'm pretty certain the advertisers of Florida haven't lied, or the advertisers of orange juice haven't lied in claiming that their oranges came from Florida. Because you need some sort of fruit, at least, can ferment into alcohol. They're going to have an orange. Would it be like a liqueur? I think so. I think liqueurs, let's see, is fruit? I don't know. Schnapps like liqueur versus spirits or schnapps or whatever. Jeez, man. The main difference between liquor and schnapps are how they are made, their alcohol content, and how they are used. Liquors are made by infusing a base spirit with flavors and sweeteners, while schnapps are made by distilling a base spirit with flavorings. Well, I don't even know what. Okay, schnapps is made by steeping fruit in alcohol. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be an orange schnapps. Liqueur versus liquor. Okay, well, I'm going to read cream liqueur is like creamy de melon. Yeah, schnapps. Let's go with schnapps. It's going to be orange. Schnapps. Okay. They're, you know, with Mom's moonshine recipe and still, I cooked up enough orange schnapps. What's like the name? I love orange schnapps something. It's got of like orange schnapps jungle. I could somehow cheat. This place took place in a jungle because it had a thing called a jungle. And so this will be, I do need to have this all within, that's where the fight takes place, is in the still, and it's in the Florida jungle. Yes, let's argue about whether Florida has legit jungles, but in this, they do. It's tall tale. With Mom's moonshine recipe and still, I cooked up enough orange schnapps Why am I cooking up orange schnapps? What's the name of this I'm cooking up to sell? Orange schnapps delight. And this is going to be an exaggeration as well. And I got to set up the alcoholism and the fight at the night. Buy her a home on the Keys and put enough money in my pocket set a couple shining sites. I don't know what like slang this person's call them, shining sites. Like now I mean, oh, that's what it'll be. Enough money in my pocket. Build me a nice old stilted. And I got the house on stilts. There's they have those in Florida, do they? I don't know. Like I know, feel like every time I've seen a house on stilts in some sort of swampy, jungly type thing, it's been based in the United States. It's like a Louisiana action adventure. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme was in one of those movies with a stilted house. It's Stilted House. Am I thinking? Yeah, Stilted House. Yes. That's what I'm thinking. This person lives in a stilted house. There's stilted houses in Florida, likely. I mean, if you're going to get flooded. Of course, it'd just be easier for the hurricanes to flow these things away. Yeah, stilted homes. Yeah. Stiltsville. Whoa, there. But that's all out in the damn water. Wow. That's not even like in the jungle swamp area in those action films. This is just like literally, I'm in the water. But we're going to say they're in a jungle and they're stilted houses, not because they're worried about a beach flooding or it's been flooded. We're going to have this as a stilted house, an old stilt home. In my jungle, what I call in my jungle. Boom. That's a lot. That's a rambling dude. Rambling dudette. I don't even like need to throw a gender. I'm sure probably people will assume the mother buying house, her, would somehow be a male. Just because that's like the society's, at least in America, it's always the son, mother, and daughter, father connection. I mean, it holds true for the people I mostly know. Does it? True enough to put it in here as a trope. If I were to genderize this, but I'm not. I think trope's the right word. It could be wrong. There's a lot of words, and I'll be wrong about more throughout the entire day, and ones I've used a lot, and at times right and correct, but then I use them again, and it's just not. With Mom's moonshine recipe, and still, I cooked up enough orange schnapps to buy her a home. On key. And put enough money in my pocket to build me a nice old stilt home. My jungle still, Florida. I don't know why I'm getting some southern accent or trying to. It sounds horrible. I'm sorry for that burp, but oof. Had to get out. Had to go there. Happens. So with Mom's moonshine recipe and still, I cooked up enough orange schnapps. So now let's get to The new house had me going nowhere. Nowhere and too near the still. No, I don't drink much. But I'm like, I gotta set this up, right? Like, at least I don't. I mean, excuse me. It's been a while since I've actually read a tall tale that I haven't wrote. Assuming what I wrote were actually tall tales and not just some pathetic attempt, which there probably were pathetic attempts, but at least attempts. Besides those tall tales, I haven't read a tall tale in a while. I remember them both in written form, but also like cartoon form. And I always feel there was a setup of a want really quick, like, hear who I am. This is my challenge. So I got to set up the challenge. Like, we need to get water over here. And I think, like, did Pecos Bill, like, wrestle a tornado and sucked up a lake and put it over on the. Yeah, I just don't remember. But if I remember the story structure, it's usually like setting up some personality, then boom, what's my challenge? Let's do the boom, what's my challenge? Is it present tense or past tense? Shit. Past tense, good. The new house had me going nowhere and too near the still. Okay, so it is past tense. And too near the still. Now, I'm not saying. I'm not an alcoholic. But, yeah. It's like the first words out of someone's mouth with a beer in their hand. I'm not saying I'm not an alcoholic, but before living by the still, I don't know how long it takes. How long does it take to make moonshine? Like, again, it's just showing I really never have made moonshine, so you can't say I've done moonshine. Let's look this up. Go on search and return engine. Moonshine, like, how long does it take? How long does it take? 2 weeks. Okay. However, you really should let the mash ferment for at least a week itself. So the best moonshine usually takes closer to a month. Okay. So let's try this. Let's go for 2 months. I only have a drink for the final test of a moonshine batch. About every 2 months. The bottles. I hid my jungle. not taking any with me to tempt me. And I'd be damned if I was paying the top dollar, paying for someone else's alcohol. Okay, so I'm not able to spell right now. Alcohol. So we're setting up the reason why in this tall tale, the moonshiner, who's exaggerating this tale, wasn't an alcoholic, became an alcoholic, and fought. And this is the fight between, like a tall tale, their alcoholic selves and their sober self. And it's the tell, because it's first person, right? Just want to verify. Story elements are point of view first, past tense, tall tale. Assuming tall tale is a genre. So this fits the tension now. So I'd be damned if I was paying for someone else's alcohol. Let's create this thought of someone else. There we go. So I didn't drink. What did I call this? The Orange Schnapps Delight. What's my delight? I'll just call it delight. They're not going to repeat that every single time. But once my delight. So I didn't drink, but once my delight hit, sold to the Georgia, sold as far as Texas. I got that money. Stilted. The stilted house by the still. I couldn't stop drinking. Okay, so it's all fabrication. And this is the fighting of the self. So it's the tall tale portion of it. And do we want to call this thing Moonshine? Probably. As far as the story title. Maybe it'll be Orange Schnapps Delight. Now, I'm not saying I'm not an alcoholic, but before living by the still, I only drank for the final test of Moonshine batch about every 2 months. The bottle I hid in the bottles. Let's make this a little bit easier to read during the end. The bottles I hid in my jungle when living in the apartment. in the city. Not taking any with me to tempt. And be damned if I was paying for someone else's alcohol, someone else's shine. Yeah, this dude's not like. I mean, if you were to get into moonshining, you're probably part of some community, or you know people who want to buy your moonshine and probably buy other people's moonshine. And you'd probably be able to taste it. And I would imagine once you get like buying moonshine, why would you go back to going to the store? Get it for cheaper. Money's going directly to somebody you kind of know. You get different flavors and batches, the challenges of it. Is this one going to be good? You're not paying the tax to the man. Moonshine. So, at least in my fictional world, have never made moonshine or distributed it. That's the fictional story I can come up with the little truth I know that I've experienced by watching television, reality television about moonshiners, and reading. And knowing people who've actually made, like, how to still. I mean, I wouldn't call them moonshiners in the classic sense. They weren't distributing it, and it was proper. It wasn't like out in the jungle and in some wood shack and boiling in a pot that's been obviously never cleaned. But why do you need to, right? You're heating up all the water and killing all the bad things. That's the environment I'm seeing right here. And so we've at least set this up to have I'm not going to give this person a name. It'll be I and you. You as the other person of this stochastic fiction game story element. It got so bad I was having to sip for breakfast. Okay. It got worse. Was sipping and driving. And it got worse when I was sipping and driving. Would be like sipping and shipping. What's another place? Oklahoma, Ohio. No, I wouldn't go that far. Tennessee? Tennessee, maybe? Let's see. How far? Where is he going to go in Tennessee? Would it be Tennessee? I think so. I think as far as like to Tennessee. That's a bit of a distance, right? Absolutely. All the better. It's 2 states. Yeah. Let's go Tennessee. I think that's the words. Some of them. So now I got to have the fight. So we hit the how it started, how bad it got. It got worse when I was sipping and shipping the shine to Tennessee. I got pulled over on the way back, nearly got taken to jail. Somehow I passed that sober test. Or maybe he was just wanting to be rid of me. And then, come to find out, the doctor said that's my stomach pains. Said that my stomach pains. Too much sipping. Schnapps. I know what it's going to do. Well, it looks like I didn't get somebody's message. It got worse when I was sipping and shipping the shine to Tennessee and I got pulled over on the way back. Nearly got taken to jail. Somehow I passed that sober test. Or maybe he was just wanting to be rid of me. And then come to find out from the doctor, said that my stomach pains were from too much sipping the schnapps. Or maybe he was just wanting to be rid of me. And then come to find out from the doctor, said that my stomach pains were from too much sipping the schnapps. Whoa, did I just... Yes. Said if you don't quit, you'll die. So I said to myself, I'll have one last drink. One good one. And be done. Now I know what you're thinking. Everybody says that. So I said to myself, I'll have one last drink, one good one, and be done. Now I know you're thinking, everyone says that. And that one keeps going. Night after night. But I tell you, that's not how it worked for me. Because I fought myself. So I said to myself, I'll have one last drink, one good one, and be done. Now I know you're thinking everyone says that, and that one keeps going night after night. But I tell you, that's not how it worked for me because I fought myself. Let's have this within the thought too because it's a present tense. And let's put a period right there. So I need to have the paragraph of the set up the battle, the resolution done. It's been 52 minutes. And I have at least an hour and 8 minutes left. Also known as 68 minutes. I think I'll be able to get this done sooner than that. But I tell you, that's not how it worked for me because I fought myself. The moon was shining. The moon was shining. The full moon was shining. Because it is moonshine. Because it's the reflection of the sun's light. Shine. The full moon shone. Shone? I think it's shone. Could be. Shone. Yeah. I want shone. Let me move this stuff around on my desktop. Oop. There we go. The full shining moon, the full moon shone. And I swayed by the still. I was swaying. And it's 2 L's. And barrels. The full moon shone and I was swaying by the still and barrels. My shadow. How do I manifest this thing? That's what I got to think right now. The full moon shone and I was swaying by the still and barrels. My shadows. The full moon shone, and I was swaying by the still and barrels. My shadow stretched. Upon the still, rising about my haunt, the still shack. Fight a shadow. Yeah, right. I mean that. That sound foolish if I try to remember. Was about the psychology of the shadow. There's lots of literary lore around the shadow. Hell, there's video games I played where you fight your shadow. Or your shade or whatever's following you. So it's not as if this trope hasn't been used. But let's use it again. It's the easiest way to manifest this thing. My shadow stretched the barrels, and upon the still wood shack wall about my height, the damn thing swung a fist at me. Oh, I know what it does. Maybe got a license. Nah, let's just do the shine, and I don't want to. What's the moral? Is there? No. The damn thing swung a fist at me, and it hit me. And that punch hurt. Right in the nose. But it hurt, and I hit back. The damn thing swung a fist at me, and that punch hurt. Right in the nose. And I'm not sure what it was, but it hurt, and I punched back. You're damn right, I punched back. We damn well fought. Like hard. I think that works. Maybe. And we downright fought like hard, punching and choking all over the place. We pushed down the steel wall, nearly knocking down the steel. A few barrels broke when I slammed Shadow into him. The Shadow lifted when it threw it at me, and I ducked, but it hit the steel. Fire started. The Shadow grew. It'd be an article. Grew. Would still shine, house all burned down, and we still fought. It was near morning, and most things were in embers around us, and it started to fade and was about to punch me. I was out. And that's the last thing I remember that night. The last night I drank. I mean, that's so sudden. Like, that could be an end, but I don't know. Maybe. Story elements. Setting time past. Setting main location jungle. Conflict person versus self. Quantity of primary characters 2. Point of view first. Tense past tense. Genre tall tell. Format flash fiction. So how would this end? I don't think it ends that well. I mean, it has the ending I want, but it's just poorly written. The damn thing swung a fist at me, and that punch hurt right in the nose, and I'm not sure what it was, but it hurt. And you damn right I punched back, hitting its face. We downright fought, like hard, punching and choking all over the place. We pushed down the steel wall, nearly knocking down the steel. A few barrels broke when I slammed the shadow into them. The shadow lifted one and threw it at me, and I ducked, but it hit the steel. Then a fire started, and the shadow grew. Well, the still shining house all burned down. We still fought. It was near morning. Most things were in embers around us. And it started to fade, and it punched me. That's the last thing I remember that night. The last I drank. Now, you might not believe me. Maybe. Maybe that'll be a story. Well, I don't know about that end. I do want to put this contributing thought. It seems I had someone, because I do stream. This is all going live before I even put it into some other medium. Apparently I'm bad at it, and I am. But I found this one interesting. I get lost in words, which is true. I totally didn't see the message till it's too late. I get it though. So let's do that. Paying too much oneself. You're being your own character. And we're gonna call it Moonshine Shadow. I think that's it. I'm just going to go with it and call it as it is. And let's move on. All right. So this is a game. It is timed, and I do get focused. I think it's done. So for today's Stochastic fiction game, with these story elements, and within this amount of time, Let's read it. And then we're going to rank it and rate it. Story elements for today are setting time past, setting main location jungle, conflict person versus self, quantity of primary characters 2, point of view first, tense past tense, genre tall tale, format flash fiction. So let's read this aloud and rate it. It's called Moonshine Shadow. Moonshine Shadow. With Mom's moonshine recipe and still, I cooked up enough orange schnapps delight to buy her home on a key and put enough money in my pocket to build me a nice old stilt home in my jungle still, Florida. The new house had me going nowhere and too near the still. Now I'm not saying I'm not an alcoholic but before living by the still, I only drank for the final test of moonshine batch about every 2 months. The bottles I hid in my jungle when living in the apartment in the city, not taking any with me to tempt, and I'd be damned if I was paying for someone else's shine. So I didn't drink, but once my delight sold as far as Texas, and that I got that stilted house by the still, I couldn't stop testing. It got so bad, I was having to sip for breakfast. It got worse when I was sipping and shipping the shine to Tennessee. I got pulled over on the way back, nearly got taken to jail. Somehow I passed the sober test, or maybe he was just wanting to be rid of me. And then come to find out that the doctor said my stomach pains were from too much sipping the schnapps, said if you don't quit, you'll die. So I said to myself, I'll have one last drink, one good one, and be done. Now I know you're thinking everyone says that and then keeps going night after night. But I tell you that's not how it worked for me because I fought myself. The full moon shone and I was swaying by the still and barrels. My shadow stretched over the barrel, from the barrels and upon the still wood shack wall, about my height. The damn thing swung a fist at me, my shadow, and that punch hurt, right in the nose. I'm not sure what it was, but it hurt, and you damn right I punched back, hitting its face. We downright fought, like hard, punching and choking all over the place. We pushed down the still wall, nearly knocking down the still. A few of the barrels broke, and I slammed the shadow into them. The shadow lifted one and threw it at me, and I ducked, but it hit the still. Then a fire started, and the shadow grew. While the still shine shone, the house all burned down. We still fought. It was near morning, and most things were in embers around us. It started to fade, and it punched me. And that's the last thing I remember that night. The last I drank. Now, you might not believe me and be thinking I was the one that caused all that damage, but we all know the shadow comes back and that the moonlight shadow is of your soul. I don't hate that. Not even looking at the text that tries to hope to find this score from 1 to 4, I'll rank that at 3. I think it hit most of these parameters. Tall tale, certainly. Kind of fun. A little, well, distracting. Let's go ahead and save this. Right, a story, and rate it a 3. Well, I need to become a better streamer, maybe. And I definitely need to become a better writer.